Thanks for joining us tonight for our Christmas Eve service, where we can have a time to gather together and pause in the midst of this crazy Christmas season. And it feels weird for me right now to be able to say that. Like, how is it already Christmas? This time is meant to be filled with joy and celebration, where we gather together and see family and friends, where we get to party and exchange laughter and presents. But it doesn't feel like we should be at Christmas now. Well, for me at least, it doesn't feel that way. Because this year's been so hard. It feels like we've just been in survival mode, just getting through. It doesn't feel like we should be at a point where we should stop and just be able to celebrate and rejoice. And tonight gives us a chance to hit that pause. And it's really our prayer that as we gather tonight, we're able to just breathe and really get part of the heart of Christmas back and be able to pause and see where Jesus fits into the middle of this. And I just want to share a couple of quick stories about Christmas for me with us tonight. And if you've got kids, you might be able to relate to some of these, or if you've had kids, and because these are all going to be stories like from my childhood as I've grown up. And I remember when I was young being so excited for presents at Christmas time. Like when I'm a kid and I just wanted to stay up all night. And you know that feeling of excitement where you just continues to grow and build over the night. And my parents were great at continuing to fuel this for us when we were kids. They would play into this and feed on it for us. And I can remember one year leaving my nan's house, and there was all clouds in the sky, and the wind had blown and created a couple of streaks through the sky. And my parents were like, "Oh, see that? That's Santa. We need to hurry and get home for bed so you can get your presents." And we would get all excited trying to look at the sky that night. And another year, I remember staying at my cousin's house. And our whole family was sleeping downstairs, and every time my parents would get up or move, I would wake up thinking, is this Santa? Am I going to get gifts? And there was also one year when I was a little bit older where all my family was overseas. I'd finished school at this stage, I couldn't go. They were in Africa doing some mission work. And they were over there to celebrate Christmas, and I was back here in Melbourne by myself. And it really struck me that year the importance of family at Christmas. It wasn't just about presents, but family was really important. And I know that for some people, Christmas isn't a time of rejoicing. It is a time of difficulty as we mourn people in our family or those close to us that aren't with us anymore. And it becomes hard. And my family this year are going through that exact thing as well, as we are going through a first Christmas without people that we dearly love in our lives being able to be there with us. And that's part of the reality of Christmas as well. And we are very much aware that that is the reality for some of you. So tonight what we're hoping to do is to pause. And as I've done that in preparation for Christmas this year a little bit, I've started to think about the last 10 years where it's really honed in for me the importance of Christmas. And sometimes people miss that I actually care a lot about Christmas because I don't really get into the festive spirit of the season at all. I don't care much for gifts. I'm not a gifts person. I don't really get into Christmas decorations and want to set up a house and love Christmas carols and going to see Christmas lights. It's not really the stuff I get into because honestly for me, I'm a person who gets easily distracted. And when it comes to Christmas, these things tend to drag my attention away from what I believe the heart of Christmas is all about. And I can miss these important elements. You see, tonight on Christmas Eve, it's a time for us to stop and remember a night from just over 2,000 years ago that wasn't spectacular in any way. There was nothing special going on. It was surprisingly ordinary. There was no Christmas lights and decorations and noise. It was really ordinary, apart from one event in a small stable in the town of Bethlehem of Judea, where a child was born. And this birth wasn't just the birth of another child to a poor carpenter and his wife. No, this birth was a birth like none other. And we stop and remember and anticipate the arrival of this child. That's why we stop now. Because this child was to be called Emmanuel, which means God with us. We know him as Jesus. And he is the heart of the Christmas season. See, Jesus is the creator of the universe, the God of all eternity. He's the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. He's God himself who comes born in human form. And at Jesus' birth, this is the heart of the Christmas season. It's the reason why it's so important to hold to this heart, because the birth of Jesus, there's so much in that our world needs. You see, with the birth of Jesus, It is the birth of hope. Before the birth of Jesus, people's lives were just being lived in the moment. They'll go through the busyness of every day. And they'll try to appease God when they would make decisions that were selfish. And they broke how God intended them to live their lives. And they would have to work out a way to reconnect with God once more. But the coming of Jesus is the coming of God himself into our world. And he says that I'm coming to be in relationship with humanity. There is a hope for those who are forgotten in this. There is a hope for those who feel exiled and cut off. There is a hope for those who are outcasts. There is a hope for those who are too busy, and those who are too tired, and those who are worn down. See, there is a hope for those who are hurting. There is a hope with the coming of Jesus. The birth of Jesus is a birth of hope into our world. So you see, Jesus came and he lived a life that spread hope out into the world. And it transformed the world through the things he said and the things he did. And the way that Jesus lives his life shows us the character and the nature of God. It shows us God himself, because that's who Jesus was. And we see the heart of how God moves, and we get an understanding of who God is when we look at the life and the character of Jesus. Before Jesus came, we were stuck in a world where we were consumed by our own agendas, by our own definition of what is good, because we had no access to who God was. And when Jesus comes, he reveals who God is for all of us and God's heart for us and our lives. And he opens up this relationship between humanity and God. And God shows me that there is hope when I feel in despair. And God encourages me to continue when I want to give up. And God gives me a perspective for how I should see the world. And as Croydon Hills Baptist Church, we love this Christmas season because it's a reminder for us about this hope, the hope of Jesus for our world, and that our world needs that. And for us this Christmas as Croydon Hills Baptist Church, we would like to give everyone a gift. And that is the gift that has already been given to us. That's the person of Jesus himself. See, he came on the first Christmas and was born into a stable, but he grew up and he lived a life and revealed who God was to the world. And then he brought people into a relationship with God and invited those who were outcasts to come in, and those who didn't think they were good enough to come in, and those who were too busy to come in, and started to define God's definition for good and evil for all of humanity. And then he made a way for us to be in relationship with God through sacrificing himself, through dying, and in doing so, giving his life for us so that we can be made whole in relationship to God and remove every barrier that holds us back and blocks us from the presence of who God is. You see, at Christmas, we can get caught in the busyness of everything, but the heart of Christmas is to remember that Jesus is God himself, the creator of the universe, the beginning and the end, and he is the gift towards humanity at Christmas time. And if you'd like to know more about who Jesus is, then please get in contact with us here at Croydon Hills, and we'd love to share that with you and to pass this gift on to you. It is our heart to connect people with the hope of this world through the person of Jesus, the hope of new life that comes from a life united and in relationship with God. And you see, this is at the heart of what Christmas is all about. And this is why we can rejoice. It's why we can celebrate. And it's why tonight there is so much anticipation for what is to come. That is the arrival of God, and remembering that Jesus came into our world to bring us hope and to move beyond what we can see now and step into new life. So that's the meaning of Christmas. That's why we love Christmas. And it's our hope that you would be able to embrace that this year.